Brothers and sorors, dear friends, it's so wonderful to have all of you here today. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that it's wonderful to be here with all of you. Today, I'm very excited to present a guided walking tour and meditation of the Rosicrucian Peace Garden. So, as we celebrate the fact that we are all here together as one loving community, I will pull up our walk. Here we are, standing in Rosicrucian Park on a beautiful summer morning at the entrance to the Rosicrucian Peace Garden. The Rosicrucian Peace Garden was dedicated by Imperator Christian Bernard as a place of peace, and actually read the Rosicrucian contribution to peace here. Every summer during the Rosicrucian Peace Day ceremony, we rededicate this garden to peace. And so it's fitting that our walking meditation today will be focused on finding peace within ourselves. So, beloved fratres and sorors, as we are about to enter this lovely, lovely place, take a minute and let any of the day-to-day stuff go. For the next hour, we have a moment to be safe, to be together, to be home. So take a second and just let it all go so that you are ready to cross into this garden. Just shake it out a little bit. So now that we are properly attuned, we enter this beautiful garden, traveling back in time to the 18th dynasty of ancient Egypt. Carefully designed from archaeological evidence, tomb drawings, and excavations at Amarna. This garden is as authentic as possible to a garden that you would have lived in 1500 BC. Today, we are going to explore how the architecture and plants encode symbolism and meaning that the ancient Egyptians would have known immediately. In the same way that you could walk into a cathedral today and see the saints and stories of Christianity, the ancient Egyptians could have looked at a garden like this and seen their whole cosmological universe, because they believed that gardens and temples were microcosms that connected them to the divine. With that said, the best place to start is at the Peace Garden reflection pool. The ancient Egyptians believed that the origin of the whole universe was from a flood. And as those flood waters retreated, a single piece of land emerged. And this was the Atum, or the invisible one. Atum gave rise to Tefnut and Shu, moisture and air, and they give rise to Geb and Nut, earth and the sky above. Geb and Nut then gave rise to Osiris, Isis, Nephthys and Set. And so in this reflection pool, we imagine the beginnings of the universe, and from which all of these deities emerged. In addition to being a cosmological symbol, it's also a political one. Note the juxtaposition of the lilies and the papyrus plants behind it. These were the symbols of Lower and Upper Egypt, the river and the delta. So in this pond, an ancient Egyptian would see the origins of the whole universe and the deities, the unity of Upper and Lower Egypt. And that wasn't just symbolic. They believed that it connected this garden to those ideas and places and beings. Looking here, we see the temple that would have been the spiritual center of the garden itself. The sounds of sistrum and incense would waft out of the temple. Looking behind, we again see the papyrus that we've talked about before. And this pond also acted as a reflection point. You can look down and see the palm trees above and the lovely fish, because this was a reflection point of the microcosm and the macrocosm. We love these fish. We take really good care of them, and visitors come around from around the world to see them. So as we move up from the reflection to the reality, you see a date palm, which would have been another potent symbol in ancient Egypt. We have 5 large date palms in the garden. The ancient Egyptians would have regarded these as a solar symbol, looking at the bright, large, starburst-like shape, the golden, delicious dates that grow at the center. It makes sense that this tree, this plant, this organism would have embodied the solar energy. And since this is a garden in Amarna, it makes sense to have solar iconography. We have a dedicated crew of harvesters who pick every single date. We call them the squirrels. And they are the fattest, most glossy coated animals that you'll ever see. If we're lucky, we might someday get a date for us. Moving forward and appreciating that balance with nature, you see beautiful papyrus columns, because the ancient Egyptians believed in this idea of ma'at, of balance and harmony with the whole universe. So these columns are papyrus, indicating an architectural element that mirrors the papyrus plant itself, nature and humanity mirroring and balancing each other. This dais would have been a wonderful place for someone just like you or me to step out of the hot Egyptian sun and into the shade, to sit and play a game of Senet, to dance, to play music. Imagine how lovely that must have been. Walking this way, we move from the palm trees and the dais to these 2 beds of plants. These are culinary, horticultural, and medicinal plants. You wouldn't have a pharmacy that you could run to. The easiest way to have all of the medicines you needed was to grow them. So in this bed, we are very lucky to have some wonderful plants the ancient Egyptians used in their daily lives. On the left right here, we see sage leaf rock rose, which would have been used as a binder and perfume and had its medicinal properties in its own right. In the spring, it is covered in little white flowers, but for now, it's gone to seed in the hot California sun. Moving forward, you see our very green and very minty patch of mint. This is spearmint. And normally, this time of year, we would have harvested all of the mint for making tea. It's a powerful and wonderful digestive chemical. But we actually can use it for another purpose, which we leave the flowers on there, and the small native pollinators love it. It's like little jeweled flies and hoverflies and bees cover it in the summertime. Right here, we see lavender. And lavender is another powerful medicinal plant. It produces essential oils that contain the compound linalool, which it's a monoterpenoid. Linalool, when you ingest it, goes into your blood and affects your nervous system, resulting in a calming effect. The ancients knew this and have used lavender medicinally for many thousands of years. This time of year, it's so covered in essential oil that you can run your fingers over it, and it's almost like glistening. Now, imagine that you are this lovely little bee, and you have so much work to do. But as it goes through and sips the lavender nectar, it's probably getting just a little bit of that linalool. So I encourage all of you to work as hard as this bee, but do it calm. I find people sitting here watching the bees and smelling the lavender. It's a wonderful spot in the park. Turning this way is the bed that is designed based on specific archaeological evidence from the city of Amarna. The park garden team had been working on this for about 2 years now, and it's getting very, very close to being as authentic as possible. The grid design is held together with 1 cubit squares, meaning from elbow to fingertip. And each of these are filled with high quality soil. The Egyptians would have used this as a method to retain water. And in arid California, these beds are extremely water efficient. You can see even in the heat of the summer, things are beautiful and green. This fenugreek, chamomile, this lovely plum tree are all doing so well. Delphinium is not in bloom yet, but it'll be a lovely dark purple bloom. Was found in the funeral collars of Tutankhamun. You see coriander, which is currently cilantro, but that will go to seed soon, and we'll harvest the coriander. This plant here is wheat, specifically a plant called Emmer farrow. It is the wheat of the ancient Egyptians. Its genetics have been preserved from gardener to gardener and farmer to farmer, specifically in Italy, where the Romans also cultivated this plant. Preserved from antiquity, we actually have Emmer farrow growing in the museum, or excuse me, we have Emmer farrow preserved in the museum as an artifact. And I bet if we were to do genetic testing, it would be very similar to what is growing in the park today. It's wild to me to imagine that this grain is the great, 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 great grandchild of the plants that the ancient Egyptians themselves ate. The first, among the first plants that humans domesticated for food. We will probably not make beer with it, but if we're very lucky, we will make some delicious bread this fall when we harvest it. Moving on, you see that the first bed is reflected and mirrored. This is just to maintain ma'at, this balance. And you see more of the same plants, the fenugreek and lettuce, the cilantro and delphinium, and see the onions and garlic, thyme, oregano, all balanced. The fennel is getting quite big. But at Rosicrucian Park, we leave flowering plants as much as possible for native pollinators, especially ones with small little flowers. These onions are actually second generation, grown from seed that we've saved. They add a wonderful, different horticultural element of these gorgeous round balls of flower and seed. Fennel flowers are actually delicious to eat. And when we harvest the grain and mill it into flour, maybe we'll save some of the seed from this plant and add a little bit of fennel to the bread. Give it that slight licorice taste. So you see that the layout and the design of these gardens is designed to be very even and square and maintain this feeling of balance and harmony. To have a feeling of peace and serenity as you walk through this place. As we walk in this lovely, lovely morning light, you can imagine what it would have been like to be an ancient Egyptian, picking and harvesting, making some morning tea. To our right, you see our crop of pomegranates. In this late summer sun, they're setting fruit, and it grows bigger and bigger by the day. The ancient Egyptians loved pomegranates, and you find them frequently in tombs. The symbolism is somewhat, they believe the symbolism is generally around Hathor, the Egyptian deity of love, with the sweet red juice and lots of seeds. They were also eaten for fertility. Just stroll this garden of pomegranates, the red and the green. Last month, I read a poem by Rumi, and it said, "I know that which makes the pomegranate blush." I've been thinking about it, and this lovely red pomegranate as they start to turn in this summer heat. As we walk now, feel yourself becoming more and more relaxed, enjoying this place. It's here for you if you ever want to come and spend an afternoon with the lavender and pomegranates. Now, I would love to show you one of my favorite architectural elements of this garden. This is the grape arbor. Grape arbors are amazing in that in the summer, they grow green and tall and block the sun, creating this lovely place to get out of the sun. And in the winter, these grapes lose their leaves and allow the sun to flow in, giving us light when it's so cold out. A garden like this would have had grapes primarily for wine production, and that these grapes would have been harvested and crushed into wine in the fall. The ancient Egyptians believed that wine was sacred to Osiris, who is the deity of the afterlife. So that in the same way that you can take grapes and crush them and rot them. But in the crushing and rotting, they become something more, something new again, something even more special. When you are here, I hope that you have a chance to pick some delicious grapes and sit in the shade, maybe even on this bench right here, and enjoy a taste of what would have been reserved for elites in ancient Egypt. But I encourage you to come here because you are all beloved. As we leave this grape arbor, we are now heading into the spiritual center of what would have been the spiritual center of Egyptian gardens, the garden temple. You see the small offering niche and two guardian trees that look over the temple. On the right is an olive tree, and on the left is an Arbutus marina, or a Greek strawberry tree. This tree also would have been sacred to Hathor. The seeds are, because the fruit is delicious, and it's sweet and tangy and kind of makes your lips numb. They also have a skin on them that has the texture of something like a plum dropped in the sand of the beach. So frequently, the Arbutus marina fruit is fermented or into wine or used to make jelly or jams. I like them though, they're kind of crunchy. But you can imagine that this lovely tree with its bright red fruit would have stood in front of a temple, symbolic of love and beauty. Admiring this tree and that it has stood here since this garden was dedicated. Imagine all the people who've walked past it. And now, we prepare to enter the most sacred place. This is the temple. Take a deep breath and prepare yourself. This garden, remember, is based on the gardens of Amarna. When the pharaoh Akhenaten shifted all of Egypt from polytheism to monotheism, Akhenaten moved the spiritual center of Egypt to Akhetaten, the horizon of the Aten, which was his personal deity. The Aten was a solar disk, an unknowable deity that could only be represented by the sun. These temples would have an open ceiling to let the light flow in. Pre-Amarna temples had deep, dark sanctums. This was a radical shift in architecture. But in this place, this light fills the whole area. Art of Amarna is frequently the rays of the Aten surrounding Akhenaten and his family, holding the Ankh of life, the prana, the chi, the breath of air, the vital life force to his lips. This period changed from long-established art to new forms that included nature. And this period was reflected in the idea that the nature and the divine were one, animated by the Aten. All beings were different emanations and reflections of the Aten. So, in this beautiful temple, as we walk deeper and deeper inside, imagine that you were living in Amarna, between 1353 and 1336 BC. Imagine what it would have been like to be in this temple, playing a sistrum or burning incense, the sounds of the fish, the laughter of children, the sound of wind. And imagine, as you venerate the Aten, you seek a sunny spot to stand, to allow yourself to bask in the morning light. You turn and look up through the ceiling and see the streaming rays of the sun flowing into this temple, filling every niche and alcove with its light. Remembering in this moment that you are an emanation of the divine. And as guests of this temple, I invite all of you to soak in these rays, to feel yourself rejuvenated on all levels. To feel the light of the sun infuse every cell of your being. To bask in light. Feeling completely rejuvenated on all levels. You prepare yourself to leave this sacred place. Your offering today are your thoughts and words and actions that have now made this temple even more sacred. You take a look to the sky and enjoy the fresh air flowing into this wonderful space. Now, let us walk back to the reflection pool. As we move, we become more relaxed with every single step. Please join me in a deeper meditation as we contemplate peace in this reflection pond of this beautiful garden. Take a moment to sit with your feet flat on the floor, slightly apart, with your hands in your lap. Feel your back comfortable, but as straight as possible. Allow yourself to become mindful of your breath. Take 3 deep breaths, feeling more relaxed and at peace with each breath. You are whole. You are safe. You are home. Look at how the sun is reflected by the waters. Know that this light is reflected by you. As the sun illuminates the world reflects the sun, giving back the light that it receives. If you'd like, please join me in invocation. God of our hearts, God of our realization, may your sublime essence infuse our whole beings and purify us on all levels, so that we may begin to understand the peace that lives deep within ourselves, so that we may bring peace to the world. So mote it be. And now, I ask, when the sun illuminates you, what do you reflect? Set an intention now. What is it that you seek to reflect? What would you like the world to see when you are illuminated by the light of the sun? Beauty, harmony, kindness, serenity, love, peace. May our words and actions and thoughts reflect the light in its highest and holiest vibrations. Now let your whole being become like the glassy surface of this pond. Let the lilies that bloom in you sit unmoved on the surface. Now, as we settle in to a place to watch these tranquil waters, we notice that time begins to move around us differently. As we become more and more at peace, we are like a stone in the river. As the eddies and currents flow all around us, we are unmoved. We are still. We see the wind move in the trees. An hour goes by in a minute. We observe our surroundings outside of the normal flow of time, because we are not part of the hustle and bustle of the day. We transcend it. How do you stay so calm? Others will ask. And you will just smile and radiate the love that surrounds us all. The problems of the day are but ripples on a pond. We form the portal that connects the macro and the micro, the above and the below. This place of peace is not outside of you. It is within you. You are the universe unfolding. If you decide to seek peace, you are the universe seeking to know peace. You are a small piece of consciousness of the cosmos on a journey to explore what it is to be at peace. Just as the ancient Egyptians believed that this garden was a microcosm of the whole universe, the great initiates of the past knew that so were they. The moments in history where humans have brought forth great leaps of evolution to consciousness have been when a single being found the peace of the divine within themselves and then shared that peace with the world. This deep peace, this unconditional love, this is the fabric that unites us all. You don't need to obtain it from anyone or anywhere. If you travel to the highest mountaintop or swim to the depths of the deepest ocean to find it, you will, because you carry it with you wherever you go. This peace dwells in your heart. It is the core of your being. It is that which makes you, you. Now let us sit with these beautiful lilies and attune with them as they open in this new day. Watch the world flow around you without judgment. The whole world is but a lily pond full of fish that you have the honor and privilege to sit by and watch. Feel yourself become more and more still. Let the peace of the cosmic infuse your whole being. Now, I invite all of you to listen as I read the Rosicrucian contribution to peace. And as I read, I invite each of you to reflect deeply on each statement, and if you choose, dedicate yourself to these principles. These principles are excellent guides into how we become reflections of peace in the world. Let your whole being attune and resonate with each of these statements. The Rosicrucian contribution to peace. I contribute to peace when I strive to express the best of myself in my contacts with others. I contribute to peace when I use my intelligence and my abilities to serve the good. I contribute to peace when I feel compassion towards all those who suffer. I contribute to peace when I look upon all men and women as my brothers and sisters, regardless of race, culture, or religion. I contribute to peace when I rejoice over the happiness of others and pray for their well-being. I contribute to peace when I listen with tolerance to opinions that differ from mine or even oppose them. I contribute to peace when I resort to dialogue rather than to force to settle any conflict. I contribute to peace when I respect nature and preserve it for generations to come. I contribute to peace when I do not seek to impose my conception of God upon others. I contribute to peace when I make peace the foundation of my ideals and philosophy. Now, in this place of perfect peace, as all of you resonate with peace, I invite you to spend a moment attuning to the peace of these lilies and these fish, and the stillness of the reflection of this pool, allowing yourself to become even more still. Remember that to be Rosicrucian is to seek to understand, to know, to be peace profound. You are welcome to sit by this pond in peace for as long as you like, remembering that as you seek peace within yourself, you bring peace to the whole universe and to all of the divine. I wish you all peace profound. Thank you.